Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Look, like I've been saying folks, the closer we get to election day, the more volatile things get, the more swings we're gonna see. Early polling data is garbage, it's useless. Especially if that early polling data is telling you that Democrats are gonna win by 10, 15, 20 points. We always see the same thing over and over again. The closer you get to election day, the better Republicans start to perform. I mean, take a look at Glenn Youngkin, for instance. In the 2021 Virginia gubernatorial election, up until maybe a month and a half before election day, nobody even knew who Glenn Youngkin was. And the Democrat candidate in the state of Virginia, a state that Joe Biden carried by 11 percentage points, well, he was supposed to cruise to victory. But the closer you got to election day and the more people started to pay attention, and the more exposure that people had to Democrat policies and stances and the Democrat candidate, well, the more said Democrat candidate started to tumble and fall, and he was soundly defeated by current Governor Glenn Youngkin. Well, folks, I think we're going to see something very similar. And the one situation that I keep mentioning when I'm trying to make this point is the Pennsylvania Senate race between straight up what seems to be unabashed communist John Fetterman versus Dr. Oz, or Mehmet Oz, celebrity TV doctor, and what many people view as probably the weakest Republican currently running for election that isn't Liz Cheney or any of these other impeachment hacks. Well, I told you guys that even Mehmet Oz is most likely going to overperform, and right as we exit primary season and head into the actual election, my prediction was that Mehmet Oz is going to all of a sudden start to make some serious massive gains, and already, folks, it's happening. Let's continue to crush Democrat hopes and dreams and do a little bit of an analysis on the Senate race with a specific focus in Pennsylvania. We've got some stuff to get into, friends, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so the trend is starting to form. The last three polls that we have over here showing John Fetterman winning by 9, 6, or 11 points. Well, the most recent poll from last week just got released by Trafalgar Group, which is, by the way, much more accurate than every single other pollster in the list, is showing a shrinking Fetterman lead at 48% to 44%. Mehmet Oz is already within striking distance. And let's carry on from the polling analysis video that I made yesterday. A +4 lead renders this race a toss-up. In fact, if you go to the RCP prediction, even with John Fetterman over the last couple of months leading by 9 to 11 points in certain polls, the race is still within the 8 toss-up region on the RCP battle for the Senate 2022. But what I really want to focus on here is the trend. There's a Newsweek article, and we all know what direction Newsweek is coming from. Trump picks Dr. Oz and Mastriano both narrowly lose Pennsylvania races based on this poll, covering the most recent Trafalgar Group showing Mehmet Oz losing by 4%. But interestingly, what they point out here is that the lead of Democrat nominees over their GOP rivals has been supported by other recent polls, including the latest conducted Fox News poll, which puts Fetterman 11 points ahead of Oz and Shapiro 10 points ahead of Mastriano. Other polling suggests the difference is greater. According to one by Public Opinion Strategies, Fetterman would be 18 points ahead of Oz and Shapiro 15 of Mastriano. So early polling data from Democrats' favorite pollsters, Fox News polls included, are showing an 11 to 18% lead for John Fetterman over Mehmet Oz. That's what they've been suggesting over the last couple of months. Let's round it off and say they're suggesting anywhere from a 10 to 20% lead for the Democrat candidate in a toss-up state like Pennsylvania. Well, they're using those polls to strengthen the argument that Democrats are definitely ahead. But what they fail to mention is the timeline of those polls. The further you get to election day, the more that lead starts to shrink to the point where Fetterman was supposedly ahead 20 and now he's only ahead 4. And that's omitting the margin of error and omitting the very likely possibility that Republican voters are going to show up en masse, and Democrats, well, probably not. And it's also completely omitting the fact that the closer you get to election day, the worse John Fetterman is going to continue to perform, very simply for a couple reasons. First of all, he's not in good health. He's not campaigning. John Fetterman's not showing up to debates. He's looking like a coward, refusing to show up against 5 scheduled debates that Dr. Oz or Mehmet Oz suggested. John Fetterman also recently suffered a stroke, and he hasn't really been in good enough health to campaign over the last couple of months, and he did one event recently, and he was struggling to string coherent sentences together. That's not a good look. It's sad, obviously. Nobody gets pleasure in someone being in poor health, but it has electoral consequences. And the next reason, and probably the most important reason, is that Pennsylvania is not an extreme state. Pennsylvania is a very moderate suburban state. Well, John Fetterman is an extreme candidate, and the closer you get to election day, the more campaigning is done, the more exposure is achieved on both sides, and the more money is spent on campaign ads, which of course leads to that exposure. John Fetterman is an extremely weak candidate. He's got this whole tough guy, regular working Joe look to him, sure, kind of like this, which some people may say is one of his greatest strengths. I'd say is probably a weakness, especially when you take this look and then learn that John Fetterman has never actually worked a real day in his life and lived with his parents into his 40s. To me personally, this screams man-child. But anyways, let's move on. That's supposedly his strength. His weakness is very simply policy. The guy is as extreme, if not more extreme, than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Here's John Fetterman running for Pennsylvania lieutenant governor in 2018, claiming, "I will have Bernie's back on all issues."
And I'm proud to say if I'm your next lieutenant governor, I will have Bernie's back on all the issues that we all here collectively care about.
John Fetterman is a self-identified Bernie bro. Well, if we go to the 2020 Pennsylvania Democratic presidential primary, Bernie Sanders lost the Democratic primary election in the state of Pennsylvania to Joe Biden by over 60 percentage points. Joe Biden won nearly 80% of the vote. Bernie Sanders didn't even scratch 20. But now Bernie bro John Fetterman is supposedly going to perform spectacularly in a moderate state like Pennsylvania. I'm just not buying it. The campaign season just started, folks, and millions of dollars is being poured into the campaign fundraising coffers of Mehmet Oz. And the GOP is going on full attack mode against John Fetterman. And let's just say there's a whole lot to attack. Just take a look at some of the clips that RNC Research, or the GOP War Room, is posting to their various social media feeds. Stuff that's being used in attack ads.
My concern about voting in Pennsylvania is the Republicans are looking to amend our Constitution here in the state that mandates, ID every time, not just when you sign up, but every time, which is, again, outrageous. It's illogical and it's unfair. I don't support fracking at all, and I never have.
I called for a moratorium on fracking.
Canceling the Keystone Pipeline, which some people don't support, and I think you made the right call. Fossil fuels should be transitioned out. I was on a panel with our director of corrections, and he said something that I agree with, and is that we could release 1/3 of our inmate population and not make anyone less safe. Universal ID and some of these other measures are a solution for a non-existent problem of of voter fraud. And it's simply voter suppression.
He wants to ban fracking and attack American energy independence. He wants to legalize heroin, not decriminalize, legalize. He believes that requiring ID to vote is insidious and unnecessary and simply voter suppression. He believes that it's outrageous, illogical, and unfair. And he also wants to release 1/3 of the criminal population from prison. That, my friends, is an extremely radical platform. And I don't know about you guys, but I think the closer and closer you get to election day, the more this will continue to be exposed, and the higher the probability or the possibility that Mehmet Oz turns this thing around and ends up winning the Pennsylvania Senate race. Is it 100% set in stone? Is he going to win? No, probably not. Of course, he's one of the weaker candidates. But the point is, it's possible, and the left-wing copium narrative just doesn't seem to make any sense at all. Democrats are holding on to this hope that they're somehow going to retain the Senate, if not gain seats in the Senate. But folks, just look at the RCP prediction page. We're looking at 8 toss-up races. You mean to tell me that in a favorable Republican election environment, the GOP isn't going to win 4 out of 8 toss-up races? Not exactly sure about that one, folks. I think at minimum, the GOP is going to retain their 50 seats and possibly win a clean majority here. Whether it's Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Georgia, possibly even Arizona, as Blake Masters is just now getting into serious campaign season, I have a feeling the GOP is going to win a couple of these races despite what the polls are telling you. And Democrats, of course, once again, are going to be seriously disappointed. I just can't wrap my head around a DSA card-carrying member, self-identified human man-child socialist with an absolutely terrible policy platform winning his Senate race in the state of Pennsylvania. I can't wrap my head around it. That's what I got for you guys, though. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you're up for it. I'm going to get back to work, though, like usual. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.